Well, hello, folks. Hopefully, the mic's not going to have a problem this time. Yesterday, I went on a bicycle ride in the heat, and it was fun. And I was talking to myself as I rode my bicycle around, talking to you, talking to me. Sat down and chatted to the camera for a bit. I've been kind of thinking a lot for the last several months about a few things. So, what I want to try to do is outline what I'm fixated on at the moment and then talk about those things a little bit and hopefully not get too jumbled up with my stream of consciousness. So, anyway, like I said before, maybe I didn't even put up that video. I was rereading MacIntyre, so just going through all of his old books. It started with the After Virtue because I was writing something for a Substack, and I used some quotes from that book in my post and suggested that people read that. I think it's a classic anyway, but later I want to go through MacIntyre's work a little bit more and talk to you about how I think his thought processes, most importantly, the way he thinks, his logic, his rationale, the references he chooses to talk about, and so on. I think he contextualizes things very well. And of course, he's coming from a Western tradition. He's a moral philosopher, among other things, and a really fantastic person, I think. He passed away, but his work lives on. And I think we need to start thinking about morals and virtues and so on again very carefully and putting everything in this world in context. Otherwise, we're in deep trouble because the kind of individualism that we suffer from these days is pathological. It's good for nothing. When everybody's focused on their individual goods and forgetting about public goods and incapable of seeing the forest for the trees, as it were, I always talk about great nature. This is not to sacralize nature or to ascribe to nature some form of magical agency. I am not a Gaiist, although I don't mind that metaphorically. To think about Earth as a living being, it doesn't bother me that much, just like thinking of my cats as friends of mine, conscious creatures, animals. I don't like to use the word creature that much because it infers creation in a creationist sense. So yeah, I don't believe that. I'm a. You want to know what I believe? I believe in the history of the Earth and the universe, as much of that history as I've learned and can understand. Evolution, geology, chemistry, all the scientific domains. And I'm not an expert in any of these fields, but I have learned to understand and trust these models, these ways of describing how nature works, understanding the mechanisms of chemistry, for example. So for me, nature is, in terms of our context, it's complex living systems. And I am not a complexity theorist or something like that, or a complexity guy. I don't understand complex living systems really. I have a cursory understanding of biology and evolution and all of those things. It's not deep, but it's probably better than most people in the world because to have a cursory understanding of something, you have to read about it. So you read it, several books over the years, and bit by bit, you'll kind of understand things. If you read Plato once, it's not enough. So over the course of my life, I've read Plato over and over again. I've read Camus over and over again. Uh, I've read a lot of things over and over again if they were good. Like if you read Thomas Aquinas in your introductory philosophy course at university, okay, most of it goes over your head, even if you have a great professor explaining everything. And these days we have AI, LLM librarians, and other things to help us better understand subjects. We have all kinds of online learning opportunities. So if we want to understand physics or chemistry or something, biology, evolution, we can. We can learn about those things. A lot of people don't want to learn. They don't want to learn what they don't want to learn, which is to say they don't want to learn what they're not interested in. So they won't pay attention to something. Paying attention means spending time. You're paying with your time and energy and focus to understand or to learn something. And if you don't want to understand something, you're not going to understand something. I have friends who were into this, that, or the other thing at some period, 10 years or 15 years ago, and suddenly they discover Stoicism or something else. They're into that for a while. And that's great. That's what happens. Hopefully, if you're a curious person and you're open to learning new things, a kind of personal growth where you can admit that you don't know it all and you've got a lot to learn, and it's just a constant process. And you're confused most of the time, but every once in a while things really come into focus and you have a deeper understanding of things. And so you move from one thing to another, and it gives you new ways of understanding the world, new perspectives, and all that, which I talk about all the time. I want people to be multi-perspectival, and I want them to think across cultures. So what I mean by that is to understand that different cultures see and approach things in different ways, right? And that those ways are just as valuable to them as our ways are to us. That's important on so many levels. So that's one thing. Great nature, trying to hope that people will start to reflexively and critically examine where they got their beliefs. So I might think about things, I can say what I believe in, but there are strong beliefs that are evidence-based, and there are beliefs that are mostly stories or narrative-based. So one can have all kinds of rationalizations and justifications for a thing, flat Earth, or why we have to bomb some country into the Stone Age or whatever. And we can come up with all kinds of reasons for that and so on. And beliefs, just stories could inform that. We're number one, we're the best in the world. If we control the world will be better off. And we can come up with all kinds of stories like that. Flat Earth people have stories. All kinds of religionists and religious people have their stories that they adhere to. And sometimes those stories or frameworks or traditions or context, cultural context, give meaning and give a structure to people's lives through which they can develop and they can have moral purpose and intention, or just intention. I want to do this. The story of my life is this, that, or the other thing. This is very, very MacIntyre, what I'm thinking now. But it's also connects to a lot of my obsessions. So the next one is the attention economy. And AI fits into this as well. I could make a subheading and talk about the Pope and Pope Leo's concerns about AI, which are well-founded actually, and most professional engineers, data scientists, theoretical mathematicians, and so on, anybody, computer scientists, anyone involved with the creation of machine learning and AIs and data centers and computer chips, they have a much more nuanced view of what this thing is that they're building and what it can do and how it works. Most of us don't understand that. It's just another distraction, another thing for us to pay attention to while they extract things from us that they want. Who are they? Well, if I'm going to cop a character for them or they or it, the boogeyman, the empire, whatever, I would put that in the basket of this creature called, or this character, as MacIntyre likes to refer to things, as Uncle Sam Inc. We all know that corporations are persons in the eyes of the law and so on, in the legal code, the code of capital, the capital code, whatever. And so we treat them, we give them certain rights, okay? You have to assume certain things to come up with a certain set of rights and how they apply to things in society and politics and all kinds of other domains. Anyway, we use these tools to, or corporations do, anybody selling anything, could be you or me, to grab people's attention, to tell them stories, and to influence them, and to make them act on something, right? Our intentions or purposes could be embedded in our culture, in our community, having to do with family, having to do with other larger goals, larger than just ourselves. You know, when people say they joined the Marines because they wanted to do something bigger than themselves, type of thing. But where the attention economy for me falls off the wheels, obviously it's utilitarian, you know, and all of that, but I won't go into that right now. I don't want to get into Bentham and John Stuart Mill and all that kind of thing. But where the wheels fall off the cart for me in the attention economy is when there's so much information out there. And I've noticed over the last 15 years that more and more people are becoming savvy about certain things, what I call knowing what's what. So, for example, you might know the history of the Middle East, how Israel came to be, who was there before Israel, about the Ottoman Empire, whatever the context is. It could span, your understanding of the context could span a couple hundred years, 1,000 years, 20 years, 40 years, whatever it is. It could be broad and then focused on certain things. If you talk about the Ottoman Empire, it's a complex thing. Byzantium is a complex history, and so on and so forth. And all these narratives have a lot of influence on how we think and what we do, believe it or not. There's all these other narratives like commercials and propaganda. You know, you can look at Bernays and Lippmann and Noam Chomsky and other social critics and whatnot. But we are always being influenced and acted upon for effect. Like, I'm getting drunk for effect. I'm drinking so I get drunk so that I'm out of it, so I'm wasted, right? I am presenting this information to convince you to do something or to go along with something. Does that benefit you? Maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it just benefits me and mine, and so on. But anyway, knowing what's what isn't enough. All these people on the tubes and the blogosphere know what's what. And we're in echo chambers, and we're repeating things that we've heard from other sources, and we're repackaging them and putting our own spin on it, just like I'm doing now. I'm guilty. And then we're sharing it to people, and people are reading and they're learning, and so more and more people are becoming savvy about more and more things. There's also a huge ecosystem or culture of disinformation or just plain bad thinking, not very good logic or rationale for things or understanding of evidence, lines of evidence, and so on and so forth. People talk about critical thinking and all that, all those skills, not understanding our biases and heuristics and our and logic and so on and so forth. So obviously that's a big part of things, and there's a huge ecosystem of that because uh, these memes and internet slop now, a whole new term came out with AI, and it's called slop because in a few seconds you can produce all kinds of attention grabbing things. And people, I noticed when I travel these days, young people are constantly scrolling, right? So our attention span is drying up. We know all this. People have talked about it a lot. On my website, I have dozens and dozens of books over decades and generations that have spoken about these things in different periods of time, from different contexts and points of view, and so on. It's nothing new. None of this is new. Uh, the forever wars are called forever wars because they just don't end, right? And the mistakes that we make in Korea, in Indonesia, in Vietnam, in Central America, all the coups and regime changes and all this stuff, we just keep making the same mistakes, right? Because it's built into our culture. We are motivated to do these things in a myriad of ways that are highly complex. So getting back to the core of what I wanted to say, I keep spinning out. I'm sorry about that. But knowing what's what. So we got all these clever people that are having the conversation. And I was going to queue up a whole bunch of stuff and intersperse it here. That's a heck of a lot of work. You have no idea. But it would illustrate it quite well. You could go to my Blue Sky or minds.com or whatever, and you could see what I post and just put it through the kind of lens that I'm going to talk about right now. All these people know what's what. They're having intelligent conversations from various points of view and backgrounds and so on. And they're experts. They've spent a lot of time working on the thing that they're talking about. And you can learn from them, and it's engaging entertainment and content. I'm not talking about internet slop here. I'm not talking about Lego scenarios and whatnot. So you can go there, you can learn a lot, but all we're doing is sitting around, auditing, watching, listening to the content. And then there's a kind of like virtue to that, right? And I mean virtue singular noun, right? Okay, I've done my bit. I understand what's what. Enough said. Now I can get back to feeling good and feeling good about myself. So I can go back to nursing my addictions, all my nervousness about whether or not people like me enough or not, whether or not I like myself enough, whether or not I'm deep enough, spiritual enough, connected enough. All of us kind of cling to some sense of hope for eternity, that our personality, that our story will never end. The fact is, these stories end. So a friend of mine seemed to get a little bit upset with my terminology when we were chatting. I said, enjoy, the LLMs while they last. And it was kind of a bummer. Don't bum me out, man. We're going to use this stuff, and it's all of us are, crowdsourced intelligence. We're all going to find solutions to everything. This is going to be a great tool for us, and so on. It will, as long as it lasts, because you can't build data centers and computer chips and so on without global supply chains and tons of minerals and mining and energy and diesel fuel and all that stuff. So you read the Honest Sorcerer or William Rees, or you go to Nate Hagen's podcast or whatever. There's tons and tons of information about these things. Maximum power principle and Jevons paradox and all that. You can go to all these economic websites, read Vaclav Smil, whatever. There's so much information out there. And now there's tons and tons of people talking about it. And the meaning crisis or whatever, meta modernity, none of this stuff is new. You have these periods of time and we label them. When did modernity start exactly? Well, it depends on who you're talking to and how you're looking at it. When did postmodernism kick in and what does that mean? What is that? And what's postmodernism? What's metamodernism and so on? Well, in my book, it's like this idea that you have infinite growth on a finite planet, that you have progress narratives that are telling you that things are only going to get better because we're so smart. And again, this leads to another thing I want to treat or talk about, which is supremacy, human supremacy, American, US supremacy, whatever. This feeling that you're better than other people, which leads to dehumanization and so on. It's just, these things are not new, right? If you understand history, you've seen it all before, and it rhymes, right? It's different, but it rhymes. So, yeah, supremacy. I'm not a supremacist, right? I don't think that way. What I like about MacIntyre is he puts everything in various layers of relationships and connections and contexts, all the way down to like local levels and personal levels. That's why I call my thing Cospelon, because I'm talking about cosmic, and polis and salon. So from the broadest sense of cosmology to the polis and everything, that came from that, from ancient Greeks until now, through the Enlightenment, whatever, to the salon, which is your home, right? And the people that you receive to your home and that you give hospitality to and that you share intimate moments with and so on like that. So we are engaging in the attention economy all the time, and then we think it makes us holy or virtuous somehow because we know what's what. But what are we doing? So a lot of people say this too. It's a common thing people will hear, especially in the overshoot limits to growth and collapse community, blah, 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 or the predicament thing, or the polycrisis, metacrisis, whatever. You hear people talking about how you have to get involved with your local community. You have to start thinking about resilience in the context of your own watershed or city or town or village or whatever. Build those relationships, have more face-to-face interactions, build community, build all of that kind of thing. And yeah, it's obvious. I mean, grandma, grandpa, but because we're filtering everything through these electronic media, we're losing touch with all of that, and it's having a deleterious effect on us psychologically and spiritually, and in many ways. This is unfortunate, and it's not going to work, right? Because to have a revolution today means that you have to convince the players of the great game, the international corporatists, this culture of consumerism and capitalism, late stage neoliberal, financialized, global, fossil fueled capitalism. So I keep talking about that. It's a big thing and it's a global culture. So in China, they have that with socialist characteristics. But what it does is it eats the world up really quick. And there's all kinds of accelerationisms involved in it. So you're trying to go as fast as possible. And the test real people are, the tech bros and billionaires. They're thinking, we got to get to this artificial general super intelligence real quick, dismantle everything, and upload ourselves into a machine that can last forever somehow. These are all fantasies. It's basically nonsense, science fiction. But this is their thing. As opposed to embedding yourself in great nature, understanding that you're part and parcel of this living system, the biome, and that you're also in a culture, in a family, in a town, in a culture, and you have purpose and intentions. You have a story to tell. Your story is part of your friend's story, and vice versa. You're the leading character in your story. I'm the leading character in my story. I'm the supporting character in your story, and so on and so forth. And we have these interesting, complex, exciting, emotional interconnections, relationships, and over the course of a lifetime, that's what we look back on, and that's our life story, and so on. When all of this gets disjointed, it's a problem. So I'm gonna stop outlining what I'm thinking about there because I think I've done enough. But I will reiterate that all of us who think we're doing something by knowing what's what, we're not doing anything really. Because until this, I would call it evil, system, or I call it this thing of ours, which is an allusion to, a Cosa Nostra and so on. It's a criminal enterprise, a criminal culture. They don't think they're criminal because they have their own story and justifications and rationalizations and legal structures and institutions and so on that prop up their belief system. And I do believe it's a belief system based on what their purposes, their intentions are. And this is money motivated, profit motivated, and so on, power motivated, status motivated, and all that. So all these meaning maker types, Vervaeke and Schmachtenberger and Jamie Wheel and whoever, there's millions of them now all over the world. We're all, we went through that already. Now we're all becoming our own versions of that. It's like when the heterodox conservatism started to become hip. It came and went in a couple of years. Things are just moving so quickly now, you can't keep up with the cultural trends. It just keeps going. So, yeah, I'll stop now. I just want to go through, as a teaser, a couple of stories here. I made some notes. I went through some of this stuff and worked on it.